Now let's get into this book. I'm going to give you a quick review just in case you want to go read it for yourself. This book is amazing. It has some crazy parts, and I'm going to give you some spicy parts too. So stick around for that. Fanny Hill, The Memoirs of a Woman's Pleasure, was written in 1748 by John Cleland. He was born September 24th, 1709 to parents William Cleland and Lucy Dupas. There is not a lot of historical records of John's childhood. The only thing we know is that he did get expelled from school. Whatever he got expelled from school for, it was apparently too scandalous. It was too much for the people, the officials, to write it down in documentation of what he did. And I'm going to get into this too. Now, there's a lot of speculation going around that went around about John Cleland, that the way this book was written, that he was apparently gay. Whatever he did to get expelled in school, it was too gay for the time to write down. As Cleland got older, he grew up, left his parents' house, and ventured out into the world. His life was dotted with a lot of debt. He had a lot of financial crises in his life. He had a lot of jobs too. I guess maybe he was trying to get rich and it didn't really work out. Here's a rundown of some of the jobs, things that he did. Let me see what I got here. He served as a consul of Samaria, Smyran. He served as a consul there. Later, he was an agent of the British East Indian Company in Bombay. He tried to revive the Portuguese East Indian Company. None of those actually worked out for him. Overall, he got a lot of debt and ended up in prison. He didn't like paying his bills. He didn't like paying his taxes. He didn't like paying nothing. And in jail is where it is said he wrote this book we're going to talk about later. Now, there's a lot of speculation also to why he wrote the book. His records state that he wrote the book on a dare, challenging himself to write a novel without using obscene language. And let me stop right here, because when I tell you that this book doesn't use any bodily anatomy, no obscene language, no crazy language, the talent it takes to write a book like this and to be as intimate as it is, it takes talent. The man is talented. I gotta give him credit where credit is due. The fact that he wrote this book, and if it was a dare, that he couldn't use bodily anatomy, because you know what's going on in these scenes in the book. We're gonna get into that. A year after he published this book, 1749, the book got banned. I don't even think it took a whole year. I didn't find out the actual date he got released from prison, published the book, and then the next year. It wasn't even a year. I think it was 9 months. The book was banned. It got banned like that. They weren't having it. The controversy stemmed from the book's explicit content. They called it highly indecent and offensive of moral sensibilities of the time. Like I said, the book is written from a woman's point of view, and I don't think that would have been the issue if he wrote it from a woman's point of view. That wasn't the problem. The problem is that Fanny in the book is obsessed. Fanny, our main character, is obsessed with male genitalia. Yeah, they thought of it more as homoerotica for the time. Oh, but not only that, there's more. He was good old friends with Thomas Cannon. And if you don't know, and I'm not assuming that you do, he wrote Ancient and Modern Pedastry, Investigated and Exemplified, which, if you do not know, and again, I'm not assuming that you do, is one of the first English writings defending same-sex relations. Yet again, they're finding more evidence of why this gentleman, John, to be specific, was gay. There's nothing wrong with it. If he was gay, he was gay. But I also want to make this note. If you look up the word pedastry, it's going to come up in two different forms because they used that as a term in ancient times for, how can I put this? Men. Google it. Google pedastry. Cannon and Cleland had a huge falling out around the time Fanny Hill was published, which didn't help Cleland's image, but we'll touch on that later. And then in addition, he never got married, he never had kids, so his personal life complemented the homoerotica narrative that was popularly speculated during his time. There are very little records. I know I'm like jumping, but there's not much. There's not much to his story. Everybody just thought he was gay. It was like he wrote this book. He has a lot of debt. The book's stupid. It wasn't stupid. It was like, this book, you can't write this stuff. There's not a lot about his life. But despite all in all, we can read the book now and not go to jail for it, which I'm going to tell you about later. So let's get into the book. Quick review. Fanny Hill speaks of the story of a young girl who moves to London after she loses both her parents. Both. While in London, she meets this woman named Miss Brown, and I'm going to tell you right now, we do not like Miss Brown. What did I say? We do not like Miss Brown. I'm going to tell you why. Miss Brown offered Fanny's a job as a maid and a companion. Miss Brown is not the benevolent figure she portrays herself as. Ultimately, she deceives Fanny into a world of prostitution. That's what Miss Brown does. The book details Fanny's experiences while she's navigating her new life, and surprisingly, which is one part that I love, Fanny did not crumble under the pressure. The girl was resilient, highly. They never make her a victim. They never make you have pity for her. She doesn't pity herself. She don't see herself as a victim. I mean, Fanny was like, okay, so Miss Brown, whom we do not like, Miss Brown brought me into this world, but I am still going to make my own decisions. And she did. She chooses who she wants to lose her virginity to, and his name is Charles. She chooses a man named Charles. He's a sweet and loving young man. We like Charles. We love Charles. We rocking with Charles because Charles is rocking with us, all right? Eventually, Fanny makes her way up to being a madam, but something's happened. She had to go back to, prostitution, unfortunately. But like I said, she never has pity, or she's never a victim. She's like, I just got to do what I got to do. I'm already here. But ultimately, she marries Charles, whom we love, leaves Miss Brown's home, whom we hate. And she lives happily ever after. It's like personal fulfillment for her. She still accumulated some more wealth. I'm proud of Fanny. I'm so proud of Fanny. It's a beautiful thing. Anyway, we're going to get into some of the spicier parts of the book because although we do love Fanny, she's a big fat hypocrite. Before I get into that, I want to tell you about this part. Miss Brown, whom we do not like, when they get to the home, introduces Fanny to this man, this old man. I mean old, who is assumed to be Miss Brown, whom we do not like, cousin. Miss Brown introduces this man to Fanny. He's like, oh, she's so beautiful. Remember what Miss Brown brought Fanny into, so stick with me. This man tries to have relations with Fanny, right? Fanny begs this man like, no, don't do this. Stick with me because I feel like you think you know where I'm going and you don't. No, don't do this. He's like, but I love you. Whatever, you just met the girl. He pulls his pants down. He's old. Pulls his pants down. And this man, look, by the touch of Fanny's thigh, he just touches Fanny's thigh. This man explodes. He couldn't handle himself. He couldn't hold it in. He explodes. explodes. He was just like, oh my God. Then he had the nerve to get upset, mad, angry. Who he was mad at? Himself? I don't know. Fanny? I don't know. He gets angry and says to Fanny, let's try again. He tries to convince Fanny to, like, let's try again. Fanny was like, bro, no. This is done. This is done. I just thought that part was insane. And not only that, Fanny describes this man and she portrays him as nightmarish. I mean, nightmarish. I'm gonna read it to you because I found it funny. Maybe you'll find it funny, but I'm gonna read it to you. Here we go. I'm gonna put a picture up so you can see him. Imagine yourself a man rather past 70. He's old. Short, ill-made, with a yellow, cadaverous hue. Great googling eyes that stared as if he was strangled. An outmouth from 2 more properly tusked than teeth. Livid lips, breaths like Jake's. Then he had a peculiar ghastliness in his grin that made him perfectly frightful, if not dangerous, to women with children. This man was old, he was short, he was yellow. That's what cadaverous hue mean if you didn't understand. He was yellow, his breath stinked, and he had 2 teeth sticking out like vampires, like tusk. Call this man a monster. I just thought that was funny. I wanted to read that to you guys. So I'm gonna move on to like the next part of the book, because I think I told you that Fanny was a hypocrite, and she's a hypocrite, and I'm gonna get into the next part. That wasn't her first intimate encounter in the home. Her very first night there, she actually has relations with a woman. But Fanny doesn't consider that sex. When I was reading this part, it baffles me how much talent Cleland actually had. Because, like I said, he didn't use any bodily anatomy, nor did he use any explicit language. But the scene is depicted so well. I mean, no body parts, no curse words, no explicit words, but you know what they doing. I bring this up, like I said, time and time again anyway. Fanny is a hypocrite because Fanny has absolute disdainment for same-sex relations. She finds it disgusting. She finds it immoral. She finds it gross. You may be like, but Diane, she just had, really, you just told me she had relations with a, I'm like, yeah, I did. I told you she had relations with a woman. But anyway, I'm going to get into it. Let me get into it. Just hold on. The book has an interesting idea on what sex actually is. If you do some research, which I did, so you don't have to go do it yourself, you're welcome. For 2 people to be considered having sex back in the day, there had to be male genitalia involved. In one chapter of the book, Fanny is at an inn, I-N-N, and in, she sees these 2 youthful individuals. They catch her attention. They're like 2 young men. They look wealthy. I'm not sure why she brought up they look wealthy. I'm not sure why I brought up they look wealthy, but she said they look wealthy, so I brought up that they look wealthy. They get a room, they go into the room together, and then she starts hearing flirtatious noises. Maybe one of them was a masculine looking woman. That's what she says. And to me, I'm just like, girl, like, mind your business. Got nothing to do with you. Fanny gets so curious, she pokes a hole in the partition in the middle of the room, looks, and she sees 2 men having intimate relations. She was appalled, flabbergasted, disgusted. She was horrified. She described what she was watching was nasty, disgusting, this is gross. Oh, she even said it was immoral. Fanny stood there and watched these two young men to full completion. She did. Her reason behind watching these two young men to completion is because she wanted to get these two young men unalived for same-sex relations. And because I read the book, I know what happened to these two young men, and I'm not going to tell you because reading is fundamental. One of Fanny's goals in life, her dream, if you would say, was performance arts. We're going to call it performance arts because we're in this together. Performance arts. Her goal, performance arts, is to be on stage. I'm not there yet. Let me finish. To have multiple people watching her. I'm not finished. While she's in intimate relations with multiple people. Girl's got a dream. Good for her. Good for her. We don't judge, right? We listen and we don't judge. At least that's what people say. But I might judge a little bit. But whatever, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to wrap it up because I know it's probably getting a little long. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to give you the short timeline because like I said, this book had 200 years in the legal system. I'm not joking. Here it is. So 1748, 1749, Memoirs of a Woman's Pleasure, commonly known as Fanny Hill, was published by John Cleland. It is quickly banned for obscenities in both the UK and the US, initiating centuries of legal controversy over its publication. It remains one of the most prosecuted and banned books in history. It was so controversial that even the two guys who published it for John got arrested. Throughout the 19th century and the 20th century, ownership and distribution of Fanny Hill often led to legal repercussions, including fines and imprisonment for booksellers and individuals in possession of the novel. The obscenity law of various regions deemed the book illegal, leading to enforcement and penalties. 1963, Fanny Hill is unbanned in the United States. 1964, we're going a little backwards, but stay with me. 1964, 1968, facilitated by this newfound legal status, Fanny Hill sees adaptation into several films, notably the 1964 version by American filmmaker Russ Meyer and the 1968 British film directed by Gary O'Hare. I have not seen either of them. I might try to watch them. Anyway, oh yeah, there was a TV series that was based off Fanny Hill in 2007. When it aired, it got about 17 million views. So folks were watching. Oh, I'm not done. I remember I told you I was going to tell you why John and Thomas fell out. Remember I told you they had a falling out? Let me tell you why. So when Cleland was on trial for his book Fanny Hill, he snitched on Thomas. Because I remember I told you Thomas wrote his pamphlet, The Ancient and Modern Pedestry. Anyway, I'm not going to keep investigated and exemplified. Cannon published his pamphlet around the same time John published his book. But I'm assuming at the time his pamphlet ran under the radar. And so John was like, if I'm going to jail, he going to jail with me. That's what he did. He snitched on his friend. And they had a big falling out. And of course, because of that, like I said before, everybody was just assuming the dude was gay. That's the end of my first video. Oh my gosh, I hope you enjoyed it. I will be doing videos about erotic literature and art and media that cause controversy and scandal. So I hope you find those things interesting and you would like and subscribe to my channel. I also have a blog that's coming out soon. It'll be called The Intimate Intellect. And I would love for you guys to check it out. You can also follow me on Instagram if you would like. I'm fixing it up right now because right now my Instagram is a mess. But stick with me, it's gonna look great. I'm gonna fix it up. Let me know in the description what you think about Fanny's hypocrisy. And if you've read any other books that got banned throughout history and you would like me to check them out, or do you just want to let me know about it, just write it down in the comments. I really appreciate that. And ladies and gentlemen, that is my video. Again, thank you for joining me. I am Diane Black, and this is my channel, The Intimate Intellect. Bye.